In the 7th year of loving Bruno, he told me to try a 7-day romance with someone else. But when I actually did, he panicked. Chapter 1. Bruno was in a bad mood and invited me to go abroad with him for a change of scenery. I took that as a signal, packed my suitcase and requested vacation leave. But just as I saw him from across the terminal, a message popped up on my phone. Sorry, Ruby, I lost my passport. Let's go next time. He stood in front of the giant glass window, looking both exhausted and alert. If I hadn't seen him tear up the plane ticket with my own eyes, if I hadn't heard him say "I'll be right there" into his phone, maybe I could have just smiled and said, "It's okay." But it wasn't. It felt like a knife had cut straight through my chest, so sharp I couldn't breathe. It's like you've run 3,000 meters with everything you've got. And just before you cross the finish line, the referee comes over and tells you, even if you make it, the trophy isn't yours. Exhausting and completely powerless. I sat in the terminal until the plane took off, rewinding the past 7 years in my mind, and I suddenly realized, to Bruno, I'd always been the backup. Someone to tease when he's bored. Put on hold when he's busy. There when he calls. Gone when he waves me away. Now I finally understand what my friend meant when she said, "Ruby, being a simp still makes you a dog, and no one treasures a dog." I started reflecting on our relationship, but what truly made me let go was the night he invited me to karaoke. Someone suggested a game of 32. I joined. I won the first couple of rounds out of pure luck, but lost soon after. Everyone laughed and told me to pick truth or dare, afraid they'd ask something too personal. I quickly chose dare, and drew the hardest one, 7-day relationship. I instinctively glanced at Bruno, but noticed everyone else looking at me the same way. So, my secret crush was no longer a secret. That's what it feels like to be exposed. Dim lights, ambiguous silence, unspoken understanding. Just as hope flickered in my chest, Bruno sipped his wine and slowly pointed at someone who had just walked through the door. How about him? It didn't hurt much. I wasn't even angry, just unexpectedly calm. Much later, I learned that this feeling is called letting go, and right then, I knew it was time to end it. I didn't even see who he was pointing at. I just heard myself say, "Sure, I'm in." At the red light, Ethan pinched my cheek like he couldn't stand me. "Ruby, really? He tells you to play a game and you just say yes? What if I hadn't shown up? Who were you going to date?" I swatted his hand away, gaze drifting to the window. "There's no what if. You showed up, didn't you?" Ethan was Bruno's pick for the 7-day boyfriend. Also, my childhood best friend. He'd been a cop in City A for years, doing quite well, and had just transferred back to City Z. Come to think of it, my entanglement with Bruno actually started with him. One winter break, I went to Ethan's house to deliver some gifts, and found Bruno playing video games there. Maybe it was his looks that charmed me, but as I was leaving, I worked up the nerve to ask him out for barbecue. It was nearly lunchtime, and Bruno was hungry. After thinking for a second, he grabbed his coat and came along. But as I asked him which school he attended, some men started harassing me. Bruno stepped in to protect me, and took a full bottle to the head. "Why are you crying? I'm not dead." The boy stared at me, eyes cold as frost. So stubborn, so fragile, just that one look, and I willingly became his simp for 7 years. I always believed I'd be the one by his side in the end, because Bruno's temper was awful. And though many girls chased him, not one ever lasted more than 3 months. But me? I stayed for 7 years. Isn't loyalty a privilege too? Are you free this weekend? Wanna go on a date? Ethan's voice brought me back from my thoughts. I rubbed my forehead, suddenly tired. It was just a joke. That 7-day relationship, don't take it seriously. He raised an eyebrow. Scared? I raised mine too. Trying to provoke me? Well, that just happens to be my biggest weakness. Chapter 2. To make sure I played along, my gossip-loving friends created a group chat, just to monitor my progress with Ethan. For the first 2 days, it was pretty normal. Dinner at some restaurant, a walk by the river holding hands, easy stuff. But by day 3, things got wild. They actually made us write 100 good things about each other. I barely squeezed out 30 before running out of lies. I was sprawled over the coffee table, scratching my head in frustration. Ethan scoffed. Is that really so hard? It's not for you? I shot back. I snatched his notebook, wanted to see how far he'd gotten. Worse than me. He had only written one. Eats well, drinks well. Wow. Much appreciated. I threw the pen. I'm done. Let's break up. No. Wait. Ethan panicked, tugged at my sleeve. When I didn't respond, he added with a sheepish grin, I'll help you write it, okay? So soft. Oddly, kind of cute. Bruno had never once lowered himself like that. Every time we fought, it was always me who reached out first. Whether he replied depended entirely on his mood. Sometimes it was 2 hours, sometimes 3 days, and sometimes he didn't reply at all. I collapsed onto the couch, buried my head in the pillow. Fine, be my guest, and close the door on your way out. After a long workday, I passed out almost instantly. When I woke up, I was wrapped in a blanket, and my phone was blowing up. I opened it. Over 1,000 unread messages in the group chat. A sinking feeling hit me. Right at the top, a photo from Ethan, on a sheet of slightly yellowed paper. His handwriting scrawled wildly across the page. Nice waist. 100 times. He literally wrote nice waist 100 times. What hurt more? Bruno was also in that group chat. But among the sea of messages, not a single one was from him. Chapter 3. I never thought I'd end up dating Ethan. But weirdly, it didn't feel bad at all. It was like a quiet fondness we'd built up in our youth. Had slowly aged over time into a bottle of mellow wine. Not intense, but unforgettable. When I wasn't working overtime, Ethan would come over. We'd watch a movie, eat something nice, and tick off that day's couple challenge from the group chat. Then he'd head home before it got too late. Always respectful, never overstepping. So by the 7th day, when Ethan asked if we should keep going, I said, sure. My mom once told me, your best trait is how easily you go with the flow. I agreed. I just didn't know why, when it came to loving Bruno, I never listened to anyone's advice. While I was zoning out, Ethan leaned in, grinning mischievously. Can I get a hug? I nodded and opened my arms. He hugged me tight, then pushed his luck. Can I get a kiss too? Okay. Scratch what I said about him having good boundaries. I slapped his shoulder. Don't push it. But he instantly pulled out his phone. Hey, the task's not done yet. I grabbed it. And yep, today's challenge was a kiss. People in the chat were already spamming. No couple pic equals send a red envelope. 200 yuan. My entire week's food budget. I rose up on tiptoe, ready to face death. Fine, do it. Look at you, so reluctant. Ethan wrapped his arm around my waist. Sulking. I thought he'd back off like those noble male leads in novels. But the moment I set my feet down, a mint-scented kiss fell on my lips. It was slow, gentle, teasing. When it finally ended, I was breathless, dangling off his neck. Wait a second. Wasn't this supposed to be just a quick peck? Ethan didn't say anything either. Through his thin shirt, I could hear his heart pounding like mad. No way. He's this excited from a kiss? Remembering how he used to brag about being a flirt, I teased him. Ethan, why is your heart racing? But when I looked up, the darkness in his eyes startled me. He raised a brow, leaned his forehead against mine, and whispered hoarsely, Ruby, please don't play dumb. His voice faded, but his lips drifted lower. He was about to kiss me again. This time, I reacted fast and blocked him. Didn't we just kiss? He curled his lips with mock innocence. Yeah, but we didn't take a photo. Doesn't count. Right, I forgot. After Ethan left, I went to the bathroom and splashed my face with water. The woman in the mirror had flawless makeup, except for swollen lips and a smirk that wouldn't go away. I rubbed my mouth for a while, still curved upward. Ding, a message. I dried my hands and checked. The group chat had blown up again. The admin had ed everyone to grab the red envelope. In seconds, messages like thanks boss filled the feed, burying the earlier kiss photo spam. Then I saw who sent the red envelope. Bruno. I opened his voice message. That familiar lazy, cool voice came through. Don't push the girl too hard. He sounded so sure, like he believed I wouldn't kiss Ethan. If this were the old me, I might have screenshotted his voice, saved it as proof that he cared, and spent the whole night crafting a perfectly punctuated text to test his feelings. But now, I felt nothing, just tired. He's always like this. When I get too close, he loosens the leash. When I pull away, he tugs it back, afraid I'll fly off, but never lets me fly where I want. But even a kite, when pulled too long, its string will snap. As I stared blankly, new messages popped up. Before Bruno's red envelope could finish being claimed, Ethan sent 2 kissing selfies to the chat. Different angles, different poses, like he was trying to slap someone across the face. Then came his red envelope, bigger, with a note on the cover, sharing wedding candy with everyone. As expected, my DMs exploded. Chapter 4. On the weekend, Ethan invited some old friends to play basketball. They booked a gym at T University, big space, big crowd. By the time I showed up with a bag of snacks, the game had already started. Ethan was just outside the 3-point line. When he saw me, he flashed a bright smile and jumped, cool and effortless. 2 seconds later, swish, the net rang crisp and clean. I waved at him, half laughing, but the smile on my face just kept blooming. That day, Ethan played like a man possessed. Every time he scored, he'd wink at me across the court, like a golden retriever begging for praise. Cheesy, but oddly charming. Even the guys couldn't stand it at halftime. First of all, as a single man, I didn't sign up to suffer like this. Seriously, Ethan, we all know you got Ruby already. Can you tone it down? One of them, who'd been quietly drinking water the whole time, suddenly snorted. Tone it down? Please, Ruby. You don't even know. The other day at work, I asked him if he'd eaten. Guess what he said? I shook my head. He said, "Bro, how did you know I'm dating Ruby?" The whole group burst into laughter. To ease the awkwardness, I sneakily pinched Ethan's waist and whispered, "Bro, can you chill a bit?" He stood at attention and gave me a dramatic salute. "Yes, ma'am, mission accepted." What a cocky bastard. Still, I couldn't stop smiling. Being openly claimed like this was sweeter than I'd imagined. Suddenly, a clear, gentle female voice cut in. "Sorry we're late." I turned around. It was Lily, Bruno's ex-girlfriend of 2 weeks, and T University's campus belle. She wore a crop top and tiny shorts, showing off long legs, and followed behind Bruno like a perfect little angel. The 4 of us standing together. The air grew tense. Thankfully, Ethan broke the silence first. He slung an arm around my shoulders and called out, "Finally, Bruno, we've been waiting forever." Bruno gave a quiet with no visible emotion, put down his bag and stepped onto the court. But when he passed by me, he paused, just for a second. Usually, I'd sit on his side at these games, but today, I chose the opposite bench. I lowered my head, avoiding his eyes. The others cracked jokes to steer the mood back to normal, and the attention soon returned to the game. That's when Lily plopped down next to me. "Sorry, Ruby, I heard Bruno invited you out the other day, but I had technical issues during my live stream and had to call him for help. Did I interrupt something between you two?" I froze. So it was her, again. It wasn't the first time Bruno ditched me for her. After college entrance exams, Bruno's parents were fighting over money, nasty stuff. He was either in fights or getting drunk at bars. And me? I'd finish my part-time job, rush to Royal, and drag him home. Even my friends said I was like Bruno's personal emergency unit, always on standby. If he said jump, I'd burn myself just to light his way. A month later, his mom remarried. His dad threw him out, calling him a bastard who didn't belong. That night, Bruno sobbed outside a bar, clutching a bottle, head buried in my shoulder. "Ruby, no one in this world loves me." Back then, I would gently pat his back, repeating endlessly, "That's not true. You have me." I really thought we were just one confession away from being together. Until one night, I worked overtime and passed out on the bus. and missed our usual pickup. It was pouring rain. By the time I arrived, the bar was closed. I stood in the cold, shivering under the rain for 2 hours, before I finally got a message from his buddy Kevin. Lily came and picked him up earlier, but I saw Bruno tried calling you too. It was raining so hard, hope you didn't come out. My heart sank. I had a bad feeling, and sure enough, the next day, they got together. At the next gathering, someone asked Bruno why he and Lily started dating. He smiled and said, "She really knows how to comfort people." So 3 months of loyalty, lost to 1 night of sympathy. I wanted to jab his chest and ask, if you knew I never stood a chance, why make me wait in that rain? Did he know that the 12.3 yuan cold medicine tasted disgusting? That the 48.5 yuan taxi fee hurt my wallet? Worse, it all cost more than a heart. Chapter 5. A sharp whistle snapped me out of my daze. I told Lily, it doesn't matter anymore, and walked over to hand Ethan some water. But just as I reached the sideline, Bruno reached out and grabbed the thermos too. Our friend turned away, pretending not to witness this vintage soap opera showdown. I hesitated, then cleared my throat, trying to cut the tension, but Bruno acted like he didn't hear, his eyes locked onto mine, as if silently asking, "Ruby, who's it for?" I instinctively looked at Ethan. He smiled faintly, fingers still gripping the thermos firmly. His voice was calm, but unwavering. "Bruno, my girlfriend brought this for me." That sentence snapped me out of it. I didn't even bother checking Bruno's reaction. I just yanked the bottle out of his hand and stuffed it into Ethan's arms. "It's warm, you can drink it right away." Ethan accepted it and patted my head like praise, throwing Bruno a glance that was meaningful and direct. Bruno's face darkened instantly. Thankfully, Lily walked over just then, holding out a sports drink. "Take a break, okay?" Her voice was sugary sweet, so much so that I felt a little flutter in my heart. But Bruno didn't respond kindly. He gave a cold snort, shoved one hand in his pocket, and walked off to grab a water bottle by himself. Someone joked nearby, "Yo, look at him trying to keep things clean." Bruno shot him a glare and said nothing. Only Lily was left standing there, hand frozen midair, expression caught in awkward limbo. Suddenly, I thought of that day, when I was pushed toward another man in front of everyone. If Ethan hadn't been there, would I have looked even more pathetic than Lily does now? For the entire second half, my heart was a mess. When I finally snapped out of it, Ethan had already won the game by 15 points. Bruno left without a word, and the rest of the players gradually trickled out. I stood under a tree, gazing at the magpies on the gate, lost in thought, waiting for Ethan to finish talking to the venue manager. Not long after, a pair of big hands cupped the top of my head, gently turning my face around. Then, cool lips touched mine. A burst of Hawthorne's sour tang filled my mouth. "Everyone's gone." Still looking around? I didn't answer, just pulled the popsicle from my mouth and frowned. "It's so sour. Why'd you pick this flavor?" I swear, I wasn't trying to imply anything, but Ethan took the hint anyway. He ruffled my hair messily and grumbled, "Of course I'm sour. Hurry up and comfort me." At least he's not shy about it. Unlike Bruno, Ethan's affection is clear and blazing. What he feels, he shows. What he wants, he says. I never used to think that was a virtue, but the older I get, the more I treasure it. I tugged on his sleeve and handed him the untouched end of the popsicle. "Don't be mad, okay? I'll treat you to a popsicle." He snorted smugly. "I bought it. How is that you treating me?" I fought back, righteous and bold. "You gave it to me, so it's mine. If I share my stuff with you, what else is it if not a treat?" Ethan paused, like he was trying to work out the logic. After a long moment, he gave me a thumbs up. Respect. Chapter 6. After that day, Bruno didn't reach out to me for a long time, but he never truly vanished from my life. Sometimes a friend would bring him up, or I'd stumble across something that reminded me of him, and my chest would tighten like I couldn't breathe. 7 years, 2,500 days and nights. The person I thought of every night before falling asleep. You don't just forget someone like that. Even if I had made up my mind To let him go. I knew it was unfair to Ethan. I'd agreed to date him on impulse. But once the rush faded, I realized, you can't start something new if the past still lives inside you. So I picked a good day and told him everything honestly. Ethan paused for a second. He didn't say okay or not okay. After a while, he set his chopsticks down, his face solemn and sincere. Ruby, I know it's not easy to forget someone. He inhaled sharply, but I'm willing to wait. Just like all those years you waited for Bruno. I'll wait for you. We're both pitiful, so why not find warmth in each other? His gaze was too genuine, a world away from his usual laid-back goofiness. It stunned me, made all my prepared lines die in my throat. Ethan smiled, raised his glass, and clinked mine. Besides, among us simps, at least one of us deserves a happy ending, right? Otherwise it's just too tragic. Damn, he kinda has a point. Still unsure. Better think more. But the problem was, the more I let Ethan talk, the more I couldn't find a reason to say no. Worse yet, I suddenly wanted to prove that at least one simp could win. At the bar, I cried my eyes out. Say no more. It's all in the drink. The glasses kept clinking, echoing with crisp notes. By the time we left, I was draped across Ethan's back, retching into the cold wind. Maybe I drank too much, because the chill made my eyes water like crazy. Then, out of nowhere, a memory came back to me, back when Ethan was about to move to City A. He invited me and Bruno out for a meal. I left to use the bathroom, and when I came back, they were deep in conversation. Ethan seemed a little drunk, his tone half joking. Young Master Bruno, please treat her well. Don't think she'll never leave, and don't think I'll never take her from you. And what did Bruno say? Whatever. Chapter 7. When I woke up, I had 8 missed calls, all from Bruno. Only the last one showed as cancelled. The others must have been hung up by me when the ringtone got too annoying. I planned to wash my face first. But before I could, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Bruno stood there, backlit by the morning sun. I couldn't make out his face, just the faint scent of smoke on him. Why didn't you answer my calls? Right off the bat, a confrontation. Yeah, if this had been before, I'd have crawled out of bed even in the middle of the night to ask what was wrong. I remember once he had a headache, and I crossed half the city, visited 4 pharmacies just to find the right meds for him. But now, I was asleep. What do you want? He pulled out 2 tickets. There was a faint blush on his face, and his cold voice sounded unusually shy. Didn't you say you wanted to see dolphins in Singapore? There's a dolphin exhibition here this week. If you want, we can go tomorrow. I stared at him. What was this? A slap followed by candy? He always did this. Every time I tried to move on, he'd dangle bait in front of me, a cat playing with a fish. The fish chasing shrimp, round and round. Year after year, I was tired. Ruby, what do you want for lunch? Before I could refuse, Ethan's warm, husky voice drifted over from behind me. I froze. Then I remembered. We drank like crazy last night. He'd carried me home. Of course he'd stayed over. Bruno's face darkened like ink. He glanced behind me. Lit a cigarette. You two haven't broken up yet? His tone was sharp. His eyes, sharper. I frowned. That's none of your business. The words came out harsh, but it felt like I was saying them out of spite. So I softened my tone and added, Ethan's great. He suits me well. So, do you even know what suits you? Bruno cut me off. He twisted the cigarette between his fingers, then flicked it away with irritation. I didn't get it. He rejected me again and again. So why was he back here now, disturbing my peace? I lost it. Did you come here just to passive-aggressively insult me? Bruno looked thrown off. He licked his lips, and his voice lost its fire. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? My voice rose, cutting off his excuses. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Eventually, I ran out of patience. Bang! I slammed the door in his face. My heart pounded, but not from sadness. I'd just realized saying no to him wasn't actually that hard. +1 point for the simp. Then came a quiet chuckle from behind me. I turned, about to ask Ethan what happened after I passed out, and froze. There he was, shirtless, still covered in shampoo bubbles. He clearly heard Bruno's voice, and rushed out wrapped in a towel, posing by the doorway like a territorial alpha male. And now that I remembered that casual, "What do you want for lunch?" I couldn't help massaging my temples. "Can you be less childish?" He didn't answer, but he also didn't deny it. He walked over, wet hair dripping. Then he bent down. Cold droplets slid down onto my collarbone. "Ruby, can you dry my hair for me?" His lips brushed my ear. His voice was low, raspy, and so damn tempting. Help. Chapter 8. The next time I got a call from Bruno was a week later. I was busy running project errands, and my new heels had already rubbed several blisters into my feet. So I took advantage of a transfer stop on the subway to pop into a convenience store for some band-aids. That's when Bruno called. "Lily wants to get back together." "I haven't decided yet." I froze. Somewhere deep inside me, that familiar ache twitched again. "So, why are you calling me?" There was a pause on the other end. Then he spoke, voice hesitant, like testing the waters. "If you don't want me to say yes, then I don't mind." I said it instinctively. Then after a beat, I added, "I wish you two happiness. By now. We really shouldn't be disturbing each other anymore." There was another pause. "That's it?" Even through the speaker, I could sense his disbelief. I softly replied, "That's it, honestly." I thought that if I ever heard he was with someone else again, I'd be torn up. Just like before, sleepless for days and nights. But truth be told, I felt nothing. He'd gone from being the heartbreaker who ripped me apart to just another passerby in my absurd little life. There was no more hope in me, but also no more disappointment. Then came a shattering sound. Glass breaking through the phone. Kevin seemed to call out his name. But before I could make it out, the call ended. I knew he was mad. But so what? I wasn't calling him back. Later, he did reach out a few more times, but I kept brushing him off with excuses. The one time I didn't manage to avoid him was the day I went to the World Trade Mall to pick out a birthday gift for Ethan. I was at the Casio counter with a friend when I turned around and ran straight into Bruno. He invited me for a drink. I was about to say I was with someone, but then his two good-looking friends went straight to flirt with my friend. From the way she started eyeing me, I could read one clear message. "Ruby, my love life depends on you now. Don't mess this up." I sighed and followed Bruno into a restaurant. I didn't say yes to Lily before the dishes even landed. He dropped that line on me. I paused, just let out an "oh." I didn't answer, whether it was Lily or someone else. There was never a shortage of girls around him. I kept eating in silence. Until suddenly, he picked out a piece of fish and placed it in my bowl. Didn't pick it right. "I'll practice more next time." His eyes were restless, filled with awkward eagerness to please. This was strange. He always hated doing stuff like this. He rarely even picked out bones for himself, let alone for anyone else. Back when we used to eat together, he'd lazily lean over the table and only eat once I finished deboning it for him. I even had a full page in my phone notes titled, "Bruno's Preferences," what he liked, what he hated. No one knew him better than I did. But as for me, he never seemed to remember anything about me. I pushed the fish aside, back onto the table. He looked up, puzzled. "What's wrong? Don't like the taste?" I shook my head. "I'm allergic to seafood." Bruno froze. A flicker of panic crossed his face. He blinked, then quickly dropped a piece of bamboo shoot in my bowl. "Sorry, won't order that again." I looked at his flustered expression, sighed deeply, and decided I didn't want to beat around the bush anymore. "Bruno, whether it's this meal or anything else, let's end it here." He shuddered at my words. When he lifted his eyes again, they were filled with something complex and hard to name, an emotion swirling too violently to hide. But I think this is the best ending we could ask for. Chapter 9. When I got home, Ethan was sitting outside the door looking pitiful. Said he'd been there for over half an hour. "Weren't you working late?" I was. But the meeting got cancelled last minute. Even the boxed dinner vanished. So I was wondering, would any kind-hearted soul be willing to feed this oversized baby? Who's over 300 months old? He looked at me, clearly implying I was that kind-hearted soul. So I took him downstairs for some spicy hot pot noodles at a street stall. On the way back, he suddenly pulled a giant bouquet of roses out of the trunk and shoved it into my arms. Since Ruby-chan was generous tonight, I figured I should return the favor. It was the first time anyone had ever given me flowers. A sentence I'd once read flashed across my mind. At 18, I couldn't give you flowers. At 28, let me walk you home. Ethan had done both. I took the bouquet and gave it a gentle sniff, though I rolled my eyes and muttered, "So cheesy. It's not a holiday or anything. What's the point?" My mouth might have been dismissive, but my smile totally betrayed me. Ethan laughed and pulled me into a hug, kissing the top of my head. Do I need a reason to give flowers to my girlfriend? He's right. You don't need a reason to be kind to someone you love, and you don't need an excuse to ignore someone you don't. Just as I was lost in thought, he whipped out his phone to take pictures. When he saw me dazed, he tugged at my cheeks. "Come on, give daddy a smile." I looked at him and retorted, not smiling. He smirked and leaned in shamelessly. "Fine then, I'll smile for you." Then he pulled me close and snapped a dozen pictures like we were on a photo shoot. I couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous he looked. I held the bouquet, struck a peace sign, and posed obediently. Later, when I looked through the pictures, I realized I was smiling in every single one. With Ethan, I always became that bright, carefree 15-year-old girl again. I picked the best one and posted it. Honestly, I didn't expect anyone to still use QQ, but barely seconds after I hit send, my phone blew up. Ding dong, ding dong. Bruno. He'd viewed my page 7 times in just 1 hour. Not only that, he went back and liked every post I'd ever written about him in the past 2 years, as if to say, "See, Ruby? You used to like me so much." I couldn't help scrolling down. There, in my cringy private posts, were all those lonely feelings I'd never had the guts to tell anyone. All those burning confessions that I knew would never get a reply. Back then, Bruno never liked any of my posts, and I used to lie to myself, saying maybe he didn't use QQ much. Maybe he just didn't see it. Now I knew. He saw. He just chose not to care. The moon was white as frost. The lights were soft and scattered. Ethan was crouched under a lamp, carefully bandaging my blisters. And suddenly, those years of cold rain and broken hope came rushing back. But now, I was someone who was cherished. Then, "Ruby, can you come to Royal? Bruno's drunk." Kevin's message popped up. There was even a photo. Bruno clutching his phone. Drunk. Slumped in a booth. Bruno didn't usually drink like that. Not unless he was really upset. The last time he got that wasted was when his parents divorced. I looked at the time, 9:45 p.m. Ethan had work the next day. Asking him to come with me wouldn't be right, but going alone also felt wrong. After thinking it through, I grabbed my phone and pushed Bruno's contact over to Lily. "Next time, ask Lily." I won't be going. No reply for a long while, even after I finished making tea. All I got was a silent push notification from a social app. "When did you realize your crush was over?" Good question. I guess it didn't end in one single moment. It faded slowly, lost between the gap of forced distance and unresolved feelings. It was in the restaurant earlier, when Bruno looked at me and said, "I regret it. The one I've always liked was you." His eyes were red, and for a second, I softened. I asked him, "You say you liked me, then why didn't you know I'm allergic to bamboo shoots too? Why didn't you ever realize I only ordered certain dishes because you liked them?" In his stunned silence, I saw something like guilt. "Ruby, am I really that awful?" He looked up and asked me, his hands trembling. I didn't know what to say. Yes, trampling someone's feelings like that is awful. But then again, what crime is it, really, to not love someone back? Maybe the only mistake was mine for loving alone. I took a breath. After hesitating a moment, I blocked his visitor access on my feed. Then I set the phone down and looked quietly at Ethan, who was still tending my wounds. These past 2 years, he hadn't even been in Z City that often, but every few months, he'd send me little gifts, cute hair clips, weird postcards, reminders that he was never too far. Ruby-chan, don't look at me like that. Noticing my gaze, Ethan's hands paused. I blinked, confused. He was half lit by the warm glow of the lamp, half shadowed by the night. He pursed his lips, looked at me deeply, and said, "Because, if you keep looking at me like that, I won't want to leave." I blinked. It was true. Aside from that drunken night, I'd never let him stay over. Seeing my silence, he gave a playful smirk and leaned in. "Ruby, can I not go home tonight?" His breath was warm. His voice was low. Our eyes met, and somehow, I forgot how to say no. Chapter 10. The consequence of my momentary lapse of reason was, I showed up late for work the next day. There went my full attendance bonus for the month. And after that, Ethan seemed to integrate into my life way faster than I expected. I asked if we were moving too fast. He just sneered, caged me between his arms, and casually slung his towel onto the rack. It's because I wasn't fast enough back then. That someone else snatched you away. We both knew who that someone else was. I gave an awkward laugh and quickly changed the subject. Soon it was Ethan's birthday. I gave him a watch. He said he wanted to celebrate by taking me hiking. Classic case of repay kindness with physical torment. I grumbled a quiet FML, but still went along. No one expected that halfway up the mountain, I twisted my ankle. Ethan had to carry me all the way back down. At first, I was moved. I kept asking if he was tired, until, close to the base, he suddenly turned his head and said, "Wanna bet I won't get tired, even if this goes on all night?" I blinked, confused. Not until that night at the hotel, when I felt the heat of his body through my clothes, did I realize what he meant. "You animal," I scolded, pointing at my still swollen ankle. The oversized golden retriever nuzzled against my neck. "But I'm heading to special training next week. I won't see you for a long time." His hoarse, low voice curled into my ears. I softened and gave in. From that point on, Ethan gradually filled every corner of my life. There was always fresh fruit and veggies in the fridge. Never once did an ingredient I was allergic to show up. Even my usually punctual menstrual cramps seemed to stay away, defeated by Ethan's arsenal of brown sugar tea, warm pads, and hot water bottles. When I moved apartments, I found an entire box of the little gifts he'd sent during his 2 years away from Z City. Tiny tokens, but full of care. I asked why he'd keep holding on to something so hopeless, especially with 500 kilometers between us, while Bruno had always been so close. He smiled and said, "I couldn't be the boy next door, so I had to be the boy who never gave up." Gradually, I noticed that Bruno showed up less and less in my life. He was like a flare, bright and dazzling, but gone in a blink. Some people come into your life just to teach you a lesson. I didn't expect that lesson to come with a final exam. "Ruby, ER at City Hospital. Come quick." Kevin's message took a few seconds to register. It's serious this time. Bruno was in a car accident. Ethan had already left for training. I rushed to the hospital alone. The surgery wasn't done when I arrived. Kevin had tried contacting Bruno's family, but his mother was overseas. His father unreachable, so it was just us, his friends. Not until moonlight touched the rooftop did the red light over the operating room go off. Bruno was safe, transferred to a regular ward. When I heard the news, my hands and feet wouldn't stop trembling. This world had almost lost Bruno. Kevin comforted me a bit, but seeing I was still spaced out, he suggested we go buy something to eat. I nodded and followed him to the convenience store. "Ruby, maybe you should go back to him," Kevin said abruptly on the way. "I'm not saying this to pressure you. It's just, he's really not okay. You know when I saw him cry? The only time?" I looked down, kept walking. "He wanted to check your profile, and saw he'd been blocked. That guy, who could get bloodied and still not flinch." actually crouched in front of me and cried. I froze. That didn't sound like the Bruno I remembered. I looked into the distance. Kevin, it's meaningless now. We both have our own lives. Don't we? Kevin sighed. Honestly, we all thought there was no way someone like you could ever win over someone like Bruno. But after how long you stuck it out, we respected you. We really did. He pulled a small necklace out of his pocket. A dolphin pendant dangled from the chain. His voice trembled. Ruby, he's not just heartbroken. He's sick. Sick in his heart. I stared at the little dolphin charm. Memories surged. I remembered in college. I once shared a song with Bruno, Noah's Ark by Mayday. There was a line that said, "Good night, dolphin leaping past Tibetan rooftops." This imagined day turned out more beautiful than imagined. I told Bruno I wanted to see dolphins with him for my birthday, but it never happened. Was that why he had the accident? My lips trembled. Kevin stayed silent, and that silence was answer enough. Chapter 11. That day, I didn't go back to the hospital. I went straight home. When Ethan rushed back from training camp the next morning, I was still sitting on the sofa, dazed. He dropped his luggage and froze for a second upon seeing me. Then his expression softened into worry and tenderness. Don't be afraid. I'm here. We'll go see him together later. He squatted down in front of me, carefully taking my hand in his. Every movement, every word, gentle, cautious. I nodded, stood up, and went to wash up. The car sped through the city. We arrived at the hospital quickly. I went to talk to the doctor first. Ethan went straight to the room. By the time I got there, they'd already been talking for a while. Ethan stopped me at the door. He patted my shoulder. Go on in. I'll be outside, having a smoke. He'd never smoked in front of me before, but I was too unsettled to think much about it. Maybe he was just worried about Bruno. Just as I turned to go inside, he tugged lightly on the edge of my hoodie. That familiar rascal smile appeared on his face. Ruby, you're not going to look back, right? That was the first time I saw that kind of uncertainty on his face, a flicker of fear in his usually confident eyes. I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could say anything, he leaned in and silenced me with a kiss. Go on. He ruffled my hair and walked away without another word. His back looked so calm, but also heartbreakingly lonely. In the room, Bruno lit up when I walked in, but when his gaze fell on the photo on my phone's lock screen, his smile faded again. I set the chicken soup down on the tray. Drink it while it's hot. His eyes brightened a little. Did you make this? The last time I made him soup was 3 years ago. Back then, I was just a love-struck girl who believed the best way to show love was to feed someone, but Bruno was picky, even after all my efforts. He'd often greet me with nothing but cold words. Ruby, if you can't cook, don't bother. I unfolded the napkin and kept my eyes on my hands. Bought it from a shop nearby. He fell quiet, let out a disappointed oh, and started drinking silently. I had planned to talk to him after he finished, but he was eating at such a snail's pace that I suspected he was stalling on purpose. I bit the dead skin on my lips, tore off a small piece with my teeth, and finally broke the silence. Kevin already called your mother. She'll arrive this afternoon. I have work tomorrow. So Ethan and I won't be coming again. He froze mid-sip, looked up slowly. A stiff smile stretched across his face. You mean you won't come tomorrow, or you won't come ever again? I'd always believed that when you've loved someone with your whole heart, there's no going back to friendship once it ends. Better to end it cleanly than to linger with regrets. I took a deep breath, looked away from his eyes, and placed the necklace on the table. I won't be coming again. My tone was calm, my resolve unshaken. The air in the room grew heavier. I picked up my bag, ready to leave. But then, Bruno's eyes turned red. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. Please, don't like anyone else, okay? Bruno looked up at me, his voice trembling like a taut string on the verge of snapping. Ruby, I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken your feelings for granted and trampled on your love again and again. I was just scared that you'd end up like my parents, saying you love someone, only to leave them for someone else. I wanted to test you. To see if you'd leave. To see how much you really loved me. His voice grew lower and lower, eventually vanishing into silence. I looked at him and finished his sentence for him. So you rejected me repeatedly, just to see if I'd stay. You dated someone else to see if I'd hurt. You pushed me toward others, just to see if I'd say no? There's a term in psychology, avoidant attachment. It refers to people who, due to unhealthy emotional experiences in childhood, struggle to form close relationships. When they fall in love, they don't feel joy or excitement. Instead, they grow distant and try to suppress their anxiety by avoiding intimacy. Bruno has always been that kind of person, and I always thought I could fix him. But healing someone requires immense strength, and I never had that kind of strength. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He kept repeating those words, over and over again. I wanted to ask, did you ever really love me? But in the end, it didn't matter. Bruno, have you ever thought, if someone gives you warm milk every morning, and one day they stop, you'll feel sad, but it's not that you love the milk. You just hate losing something you were used to having. Like the song says, you never wanted me, you wanted the vanity of being adored. And at the end of that song, it goes, if love is just temptation, let's not torment each other anymore. Maybe we were both wrong in this mess of a love story. Bruno looked pale, his thin body shaking. No, Ruby, it's not about pride. Not about losing, but deep down, he knew the truth. I twisted my wrist and broke free from his grip. He suddenly looked up, like grabbing the last piece of driftwood in a sinking sea. Kevin said you came right after getting the call. Doesn't that mean you still? No, I cut him off without hesitation. Bruno, I really don't love you anymore. Even if I can now talk about the past without flinching, the courage I once had to love him unconditionally will never return. His face went completely pale. Suddenly, like a madman, he pulled me into his arms, ripping out the 4 in the process. Take it back. Please take it back. Ruby, don't do this to me. I closed my eyes and didn't say a word. Just let him bury his head into the crook of my neck. Trembling, even if you don't love me anymore, just save me one more time, okay? His shaking back pressed against my chest. And for a moment, I couldn't breathe, but in the end, I only gently patted his back and whispered, Bruno, let's both be okay, all right? Chapter 12. What did you mean by that? As soon as we got home, I grabbed that mutt Ethan by the collar. Just now at the hospital, he never went out to smoke. When I turned around after rejecting Bruno, he was leaning against the wall, watching the whole thing with an annoyingly knowing smirk. I was already a little guilty, but Ethan's next move completely stunned me. He walked over, slung an arm around me, and looked at Bruno with a playful smile. I gave you a chance. Man, be a real man, get well soon. Stop making everyone worry. The more I thought about it, the weirder it felt. So I chased after him to get the truth. He waited until we got inside before he finally said it. Ruby, I made a bet with him. A bet? I frowned. What bet? To see if you still loved him. I froze. No wonder he seemed off all day. No wonder he asked me that question outside the room. He'd already planned it. I punched him hard in the arm. You jerk. Even if I had been a simp before, ever since I got with him, I never thought about going back. I had a whole speech ready to scold him with, but Ethan had already pulled me into a hug. I know how much Bruno means to you. That day when he came and asked why we hadn't broken up yet, you said it was because I fit you well, not because you loved me. So when I heard about his accident, I was terrified you'd go soft. His voice was low and a little pitiful. But I didn't do it because I gave up. I just wanted to give you a real choice. I told myself if you chose him, I'd bless you. But if you chose me, I pinched his waist. Hard. If I chose you, then what? Then I'd never let you go again. I shoved him again, not buying it. Ethan, do you think you're some kind of saint? Love isn't something you just hand over like a baton. Maybe a little saintly, not too much, he said cheekily, hugging me tighter. Honestly, the moment I let you go into that room, I regretted it. I thought if you said yes to him, I'd just sit there on the floor and cry. See who you comfort first. The mental image of the 6'2" golden retriever man sobbing on the floor almost made me laugh. I tried to push him again. Ruby. I'm sorry. I'll kneel on a washboard later, okay? He shamelessly clung to me, shaking me like a toddler. I really almost cried just now. Scared to death you'd go back. Thank God you saw through him. I punched him again in the gut. But thinking about how cautious he looked earlier, I felt a twinge of guilt. This bold, confident man, now so anxious just because of me. Maybe I really hadn't given him enough security from the start. Ethan, I lowered my fist and softly called his name. Yeah. He was still rubbing his stomach, voice low and slightly aggrieved. Last night, I stared at that dolphin necklace for a long time, wondering if I still had feelings for Bruno. But every memory that came to mind was all about Ethan. When I was 5, he waited for me at the alley and slipped a candy into my hand. At 15, he gave me his jacket to hide a bloodstain on my pants. At 25, he finally brought me flowers and said, "You don't need a reason to treat someone you love well." I wrapped my arms around his lean waist, tears prickling behind my eyes. Why didn't I fall for you sooner? Wouldn't things have been so much easier if I had? Ethan's body stiffened. He held me in silence for a long while, then suddenly chuckled softly. Ruby, did you know the first canned food came out in 1810, but the can opener wasn't invented until 48 years later? Huh? Sometimes life's like that. The important things always arrive a little late. He kissed my forehead, whispering, "But that doesn't stop us from loving each other well now, does it?" Right, we have the rest of our lives. The light shimmered in my eyes. I lifted my head and kissed him. The world blurred, and when I opened my eyes again, the magpie outside the window chirped once. The forecast said rain. But all I saw was spring returning. With wind, with sun, with hope. Bruno's side story. I can't believe I actually lost Ruby. From the moment I blocked that beer bottle for her, she turned into the most stubborn piece of cling film in the world, stuck to me no matter how hard I tried to shake her off. Honestly, I thought I was annoyed by her. I changed girlfriends like I changed shirts. I left her behind on purpose, flirting with other people right in front of her, just to see when she'd finally give up. Ethan warned me more than once. She's one of a kind. He said, "You won't find another girl this foolish again, not in this lifetime." And in his eyes, I saw it, clear as day, the way he looked at Ruby. But I shrugged it off. After all, from the moment I appeared, Ruby had never looked at him again. Sure enough, it wasn't long before she confessed her feelings to me, and I didn't believe her. Not really. How could I? My parents once said they loved each other too, only to split cleanly into new affairs, one with an American businessman, the other with a 2-year younger intern. So I told myself, don't fall for her. But the more I ran, the more my heart chased after her. I realized it that one day, when she brought me lunch. Maybe it was the sunlight, too harsh, or maybe I was just tired after the game. I looked down and saw the tiny scar on her hand. I frowned instinctively and snapped, "Ruby, if you can't cook, then don't." The words came out before I could stop them. And the moment they did, something inside me cracked open, and something else started to grow. She was so warm, like a furnace. Too close, and I'd get burned. But too far, and I'd be cold. And all I'd ever done was block a stupid flying bottle, and she, in return, kept dragging me out of my emotional hell, over and over again. So I started using rejection to test her love. Every time she stuck around despite it, I reassured myself she'd never leave me. Not like my parents left each other. That night at the party, I saw the look in her eyes. I knew she was hoping for something, but deep inside, I was still too afraid, too fragile. I knew how much Ethan liked her, knew he'd never stopped thinking about her, not even after moving away for 2 years. I desperately wanted to know what place Ethan held in her heart. So I asked, as casually as I could, "What about him?" I was waiting for Ruby to say no, waiting for her to choose me. I told myself, if she showed me one more sign, one more ounce of that old affection, I'd run to her, without hesitation. But instead, she said yes. And I had to comfort myself. It's just 7 days. That's all. After 7 days, she'll come back. She'll smile at me again. We'll be fine. I just need to hold her tighter next time. But this time, she didn't come back. When I saw Ethan outside her apartment, I panicked just for a second, because I saw that old light, the one that used to belong to me, start to flicker in her eyes. That gut-wrenching feeling, my chest tightening, hands going cold. I'd never felt it before. Later, Kevin told me what it was. Jealousy. I was jealous of Ethan. Why was he allowed to love so fiercely, so unreservedly, while I could only cower behind a rock, tail tucked, pretending I never cared? Panicked, I fell back on old habits. I used Lily to test Ruby again. I just wanted to know if she still liked me the way she used to. But Ruby, she's stubborn now. She really didn't look back. Every night, I found myself opening her social media, desperate to scrape warmth from posts I once ignored. For years, I visited her page invisibly. But the night she posted traces of another man on that feed, my feed, jealousy rose like a tidal wave and drowned me. So I turned off stealth mode, started liking her old posts, as if to remind her, look, we used to be something. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd react. But when I refreshed the page again, all I saw was, you do not have permission to view this content. She blocked me. I don't know what she was thinking that night, but I knew she had truly let me go. It felt like vines had wrapped around my heart. Not deadly, but slow and suffocating. Is this what Ruby felt for 7 years? God, I really wasn't a good person. I became obsessed with making it right. But later I realized, I didn't deserve to love her. On Ethan's birthday, I stood outside her apartment with a necklace in my coat pocket. I'd seen it in a mall that morning. The dolphin pendant wasn't fancy. But in that moment, I could just see it on her neck, glimmering like the sea she never got to see with me. I waited the whole night, rehearsing in my head how I'd tell her everything. But the next day, around noon, I saw her and Ethan walking back, hand in hand. We locked eyes through the glass. She paused, just for a heartbeat, then gripped Ethan's hand tighter, 10 fingers interlaced. So close, so tight. There was no space left for me. Once upon a time, she had chosen me with that same conviction. And it hit me then, the saddest thing in this world isn't I can't, it's I could have. I drifted through the days that followed. Her smile, once mine, had become a poison. Quiet and slow, eating away at whatever was left of me. That day, I was driving 200 kilometers an hour on the ring road. The police asked why I wasn't watching the road. I said, my phone slipped. But only I knew. What slipped wasn't the phone. It was the necklace I never got to give her. I reached down, as if picking it up could bring back the love I lost. Then, screeching brakes, shattered glass, and blood. Before the world faded to black, I reached out, blindly, trying to grab that last bit of light. I was wrong. Come back to me, please. At the end of that dream, someone smiled and held out their hand. I reached for it, through tears. But when I woke up, my hand was empty. Ruby really wasn't mine anymore.